Good afternoon, evening, morning, whenever you're watching this. Back again with another addition to my Inner Goddess Team series. Deborah Roth here at Spirited Living. And I'm having fun. I always have fun with this. But I decided what I was going to do with this in the next several videos are focusing on sun goddesses, because we've just come through the summer solstice, which of course is the time of the year when the sun is at its peak, and a little bittersweet. I always think of that when I first started doing this many years ago, that it is bittersweet because yes, we're in the Northern Hemisphere. I don't want to be too geographically discriminatory, but in the Northern Hemisphere, we now very slowly will see the sun, and it's hard to believe during the summer, but we'll see the sun begin to, its light and warmth begin to diminish ever so slowly on its way to the winter solstice, which of course is the time of the year when the light is at its least, the shortest night of the year, whereas the summer solstice is the shortest day of the year. I just spent the day walking around New York City with my delicious 7-month-old grandson, and I'm exhausted. So but I was out in the sun a lot, and I was thinking of this sun goddess, this Greek sun goddess. Her name is Alectrona, kind of lesser known one. And so as I was exploring, I think I have a Chinese one coming up. What was the other one? Maybe a Celtic one. Anyway, you'll see when we get there. So every month, of course, I love highlighting a different archetype for the divine feminine, because I feel so passionately that if we don't reclaim these qualities and traits of the divine feminine archetype of compassion and collaboration and honoring our intuition and our emotions, then we as a civilization are doomed. So part of my contribution to that is to be able to really enlighten, if you don't know about this, about these divinely feminine traits. Hopefully watching some of these on YouTube or Facebook or on Instagram. I start off on Instagram and Facebook, and then they end up on YouTube, where I just hit the 1,000 subscriber mark, which may not be a lot for some people, but it is for me, so very exciting. So Alectrona was the daughter of Helios, who was the Titan, like before Zeus, before the Olympian gods, who was the major sun god. And she is also the daughter of Rhodos, who was a sea nymph that lived on Rhodes, on the Greek island of Rhodes, which is also where Helios originated from. So she's very connected to Rhodes, and in fact, there was a temple to her that at Rhodes that honored Alectrona. I said she's lesser known. I found some really fun sites. One in particular that was just very effusive in its writing, and I'll actually read you a little bit from that one in a little at the very end. And I always include all of the resources and the places that I find all my fun information. I always include that in the description on my YouTube channel. So be sure to go there, subscribe there if you're not subscribed already. And the other thing I often forget to say is, no matter when you watch this, any time of the year, these qualities that are embodied by Alectrona or anybody else, you can call on these goddesses. They are all part of your inner goddess team any time of the year, whether it's, in fact, might be kind of nice to call on her around the winter solstice when we are feeling a need for more warmth and more light. So, and you can also, if you want to know more about, I did a whole separate little video on what the divine feminine is all about and why I'm so passionate about her. And if you go to the YouTube channel, you can click on, there's a little eye there at the beginning of the video, which will give you a longer description of what all this is about. So, Alectrona, she is, has 7 brothers that were all, you know, the children of Helios, and a sister that she was very close to. She was also very connected to Apollo, who was, you know, he has a sun's kind of spray on his head, and he was the god, the Greek god that had to do with music and poetry and the arts, and also connected with sun godhood. And they kind of mirror each other. And they were not lovers. She died mysteriously. There's no account of how she actually died. And there's, you know, scholars over the years of Greek mythology have suspected maybe she died at the, you know, as a cause of one of the many god wars that they had. But she died a virgin. So she was not Apollo's lover. She really, in the ancient times, as they called it, she held her wisdom within her. And she was independent and separate. She was a woman who was one unto herself, which in other places I've talked about the virgin goddesses, and not necessarily celibate, but who were strong and independent in their own. She also was not terribly flashy. You don't find they're, you know, the Greek gods and goddesses were always battling, and they were, you know, they were raging and they were jealous and all that stuff. She was pretty even-tempered, which I think is is sweet for those of us to get that we can, and this is one of the ways that you can call on her, to call on her gentle, kind of even-keeled nature, even if she is a sun goddess. I found this one representation of her, which I think is beautiful. And she's actually holding, I don't know how well you can see it, but she's holding an onyx, which is a stone, a gem that in gem mythology and crystal mythology is for protection and safety. So apparently her followers, when they would come to her temple on Rhodes, would wear onyx and knew that they would be protected by her, and she encouraged them to do that as well. She, let's see, there were apparently special rules and regulations that you had to follow in order to enter her temple. And she kept a low profile, and yet she was very deeply linked to kind of human emotions and physical standpoints. She really represented not just the sun up there, that, you know, the external sun, but holding your sun, holding your light within, and which is what made her, I think, very beloved of her followers, that she wasn't just about, you know, the external, like so much of the, well, you know, in Christian lore, and I think I know I've talked about this before, we didn't transcend. The idea was that you had to transcend your body, you had to transcend your physicality. Alectrona was very much about also honoring and bringing out your inner light. Let me find some of the things about her. Let's see. I love this, and now as I said on my YouTube channel, I'll give you the link to this really beautiful website. Her temple operated as a place where human and divine met, honoring her as more than a celestial solar manager, but a goddess genuinely venerating light, both cosmic and enlightening. So enlightenment, which I think is a really wonderful way to honor her, to honor the light, to honor the sun that she's talking about. It was a haven where people received their morning inspiration, absorbing her light, and while they really kind of had to navigate their own internal battles, whatever was going on. One translation of her name is rooster, which is interesting because, of course, you know, we think of the rooster as being the, you know, the cock-a-doodle-doo heralding the start of a day. So that's, and there was, I'm trying to find what, she was goddess of the morning, waking from slumber. It was felt that without her help, people would not wake up from a night's sleep. So obviously that's one of the ways that that people wanted to honor her. She was, let's see, this is another great way that she was described. Quite unintentional, but essential. She was a quite unintentional, but essential motivator of daytime discipline, the splendid, subtle influencer of ancient awakening. Isn't that beautiful? So very low key, and again, not a lot of mythology around her, other than that whatever we do know about it, she was very devoted to her sister and more her sister than her brothers, but also her sister Helidae, and all of her brothers were called, what were they called? The Helidaean or Helidae. And they were all her brothers were gods of seafaring and astrology, and astronomy, making sure you knew where you were going through the stars. When she did die, she was honored at Rhodes as a heroine, which is interesting. So many gods, apparently, when they were killed and they would disappear. But she continued on, and I'm not sure. I don't think her temple still exists. If anybody knows, please let me know. Okay, I'm going to share a chant with you to wrap up, since I don't have any good mythology around her. Again, I always rely on people to fill me in. But I wanted to read this last little piece from this beautiful website, paleothea.com, that I'll share on the YouTube channel. In the tapestry of Greek mythology, where gods and goddesses jostle for reverence, Alectrona shines quietly yet persistently. Her story, woven with threads of dawn light and protective onyx, serves as a reminder that not all power is loud or tumultuous. Sometimes the most enduring influence comes from those who ensure our days begin with light and protection, guiding us gently into the clarity of morning. Alectrona's legacy, marked by her serene approach to divine responsibilities, continues to resonate as a beacon of subtle strength and inspiration. Just a beautiful way to encapsulate who she represents, what she represents. And the chant I'll share with you, which I've shared before, and we just sang it last week at my Summer Solstice celebration at my UU church here in New York, the Fourth Universalist Society. You can go to fourthu.org if you want a little belated, beautiful, it really was such a fun service, if you wanted a service there, if you want to watch a Summer Solstice celebration. And this is an adaptation of one that I've known for a long time, and it goes like this. We are opening, we are opening, we are opening, we are opening, we are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I'm going to sing it one more time, half a step or so higher. That's low even for this alto. We are opening, we are opening, we are opening, we are opening, we are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the sun. It's supposed to be of the sun for the solstice. So that is a little earworm for me. I will now be singing that the rest of the night, you can be sure. And I hope you do too. Open up to the luminous love light of Alectrona, of the sun goddess of Greece. Thanks for joining me, and looking forward to hearing any more you can tell me about Alectrona. Blessed be.